Hi, it's Hella from Dawn Emporium again, and we're doing stuffed peppers. I forgot my olive oil. And I didn't even need to call, what's his name, Popeye. Isn't that good? Hi, while we're doing this, we're also going to have the story of Gesir Bogdo. And I know I'm killing that to any Mongolians that are watching. I'm sorry. So this stuffed peppers recipe, yes, I am putting the seasoning into the oil. You'll see. If anyone has noticed anything, by the way, at the fact that I will make food from one place and then have the story from somewhere completely different, is because it actually really irks me when someone's like, we've got an Indian coming for tea, we must make curry. No, you've got somebody who's from India coming for tea. If they wanted curry, they could make their own curry, and if they can't make their own curry, I'm pretty sure they could get a takeaway. Why not make them something that you like? Let them experience a bit of your culture, because when I was growing up in Leicester, if I went round to somebody's house and they were, say, from the Caribbean or from Pakistan or from Nigeria or from the United Arab Emirates, they would cook me their home food. But when people come round to white folks' houses, we all seem to go into meltdown and want to cook them their local dish and completely kill it. So that's why stories don't match with foods. Create the dissonance. So, and like I say, I am sorry to anybody of Mongolian ancestry, direct Mongols, anything, Mongolians, I'm not sure. My great uncle Chinggis Khan isn't actually here for me to ask what I should call anyone. My bad. Right, I've only got the great big bread knife because it is my trusty knife for larger veg. I use this for everything from marrows to pumpkins to peppers. Don't use it for carrots because the fact that it's serrated, not good. Right? So, the big main original god is a guy named Asegi Malan, and he had 9 sons with his wife Ehe Orang Ibi. Like I say, I know I'm slaughtering things here, but hey, at least I try, and at least I apologise. Honestly, I heard an American refer to the River Thames in London as the River Thames, as in tame a cat, but plural. Part of me died, and I'm not even going to get on to completely killing names, which I think is actually worse, which is why when it comes to the fact that I always do stories with names in, I am always constantly saying sorry. Because I don't mean to cause offence, but I know I'm going to. So, Asege and Ehe, E-H-E, for people who are wondering about the wife's name, who I'm having so much trouble saying. The good news is it's from a completely different alphabet system, and it's been translated over to the Roman alphabet. So somebody has already done the hard work for me, kinda. And the thing is, there'll be, because it was written in English, somebody's done a lot of hard work for me. Now I've just got to sit there and work out just how stupid I honestly am. Very. I'm sorry. Right, turn these over, and the oil and the seasoning on the outside. The thing is, I don't like too much seasoning or too much oil, which is why I put the seasoning in the oil, because I'm here to eat peppers, not salt and pepper. If I wanted to eat salt and pepper, well, I have a feeling that they'd fight me off. And not only that, I'd have to go to America, wouldn't I? There's tastier things to eat in America than chew wrappers from the 90s. They were 90s wrappers, weren't they? So, yes, Asege and Ehi have 9 sons. The 4 elder sons wanted to take over from their father, and the 4 younger sons wanted to take over from their father. But the 5th, the middle son, was he was on the side of the 4 younger sons. He thought that they were better and more equipped. My oven is on 180 degrees, it's a fan oven, so that would be 200. He thought that they would be better at controlling the world that their father had made, which, to go back to the creation story, was basically a lump of swampy land. So Asege got hold of this lump of swampy land, squeezed it a bit to make the dry land. He didn't have to make the fish because they were already in the water that was poured around, but he made the dry land out of squeezing the land, which is actually quite a cool creation story. I like that. And somehow the younger children and Mahai Danjin, the 5th son, the middle son, also known as the hero, managed to get the 4 elder children down to the earth, because they all lived in the clouds, and nobody knows how long they'd lived there for by this point. A very long time. And they went and lived beyond the frozen sea, which is the Arctic. Now this is a rice colander. I'm actually going to use this because it's just easier. So in here is cooked rice. And they went to live beyond the frozen sea. And for years they were living there, but they weren't being nice at all. And then as the years passed, Asege decided to give up being, do you know what I've done wrong? I know what I've done wrong. I can fix this. Sorry, my son doesn't like rice and I've just put all the tomatoes in there. There you go. So Asege gives up being the god of gods, retirement age, puts his feet up, makes himself a palace, a beautiful palace in one of the Tangiris, which is like a, how would you put it, a county up in the skies. There's 99 Tangiris which are ruled by Tangiris, it appears. Now there might be a way to say it that's different between the area and the person, but I don't know. And one day he's walking around his palace and he notices there's cracks in the foundations, and he thinks that somebody's out to get him. He's like, who's attacked my palace, my castle? This is my retirement home, how dare you, kind of thing. So he puts a call out for the 99 Tangeri who rule the 99 Tangeri. So that's basically the lords who own the lands, from how I understand it. I know I'm going to be slightly wrong here, because to me it slightly doesn't make sense. They should have different names to the lands they own, like an earl and an earldom, something like that. But I am English and I'm working with only a small amount of information that's been translated over, so I'm sorry. I don't know why more Mongolian history hasn't been translated over, because it's actually really fun. Right, so now I remember why I went for the wooden chopping board. So he calls for the Tangeris to turn up, and they've got no idea what's going on. So one of them says, we need Esh to turn up. Now Esh's full name is Zaria Gesir, and he's the hedgehog, and he has no feet, and he appears to be called the hedgehog because he's furry, not spiky. But I suppose if you're furry enough, you know, some men over here we tend to call them gorillas, so over there they might call them hedgehogs. It makes sense. So they call for Esh to turn up, and he refuses because he thinks everyone's going to laugh at him just for being alive, which is always a problem. Everyone always laughs at the different one. However, Esh knows what's going on up in Esege's palace. So Esege, or somebody, sends some shelmos after him. They're invisible spirits, so he pretty much sends the equivalent of ghosts to go and tell him, Christmas Carol styling, look, Big Boss wants you back at HQ. I'm not going to put any of the celery in my son's because he's not that keen on it, because he's got this problem. I need your help. But they don't get that far. Right? They get down to Esh's land, and outside his house they can hear him talking to himself. And there he is. You know when you're really annoyed and you've got nobody to talk to, so you just talk to yourself and you mutter away. And he's there going, I don't know why they're calling me, it's obvious what's wrong. His 4 eldest sons have been down here all this time creating chaos. In, they called it a name and I've not written it down because I'm stupid. In the land beyond the frozen sea. And creating death wherever they went. And now, basically, they've come crying to me saying, what do we do, Ash? What do we do, Ash? When all they need to do is tell Esege's oldest sons to book their ideas up, because we don't want it. Us down here on Earth, we're sick of it, and we have been crying and we have been praying and we have been ignored. And it's got to the point where the tears have risen up to Esege's palace foundations and have caused them to crack. So the Shelmos go back to Esege and say, it's your sons. Everyone's been ignoring the humans down on Earth, and your sons have been causing trouble. And because they've been causing trouble, the humans have been praying and we've been ignoring them up here. So there's been so much prayer going on, nobody's been bothered with them because they're just humans. And guess what? we're paying the price for it. Well, your castle is. And the Sergei's like, I didn't realise they were causing that much trouble. Just 1 second. Da-da-da. Mushrooms. It's what my son asked for. So, what did he do? Well, remember Mahai the 5th son, aka the hero. By this point, he's settled down and had children of his own, which is fair enough. Yeah, one will do. Right? And one of his sons is called Gesir or Gesir. Gesir, I'm saying Gesir, Bogdo. So, he's Mahai's son, Sergei's grandson. And he gets sent down to Earth to see what's happening. I can put that there actually. So, he goes down to Earth on a giant bird. Now, it doesn't specify what the giant bird is, but bearing in mind it's Mongolia, I'm guessing eagle. My money's on eagle. And for 3 years, Gesir tries to land and alight. That means get off, just in case you've not been on a train recently. And he can't, because of the dead bodies everywhere that his 4 uncles have caused. No wonder the humans have been in tears. So, after 3 years, he suddenly thinks, I know what I can do. And he sets out and makes a pestilence. Now, 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, this would be a bad thing. But no. See, this is how cool Mongolian history is. They realised how good things like, well, the natural rubbish team are. What he does is he sends out maggots to eat the dead bodies. Because remember, he spent 3 years flying around trying to find out what on earth's going on. Can't land his big bird. Still betting an eagle. So, the maggots eventually, doesn't give me a time frame on that, eventually managed to eat all the dead bodies that are just strewn about the earth. So he manages to land on a broad steppe called, sorry about this, Arundashell. It's accented on the E. Arundashell. Alright? And as soon as he gets off his giant bird, eagle. I'm still betting eagle. Sorry, I have to. I love eagles. He turns himself into a blue bull. And then he makes a noise only a god kind can make while in bull form. And the 4 gods turn around and go, well, his 4 uncles, the 4 gods, turn around and go, that's another god. We need to see who this is. So one of them turns themselves into a pied bull. Now, I actually don't know the difference, but I imagine it's obviously, to me, differences in the colours of the bull. And I imagine it's like dog colorations. I know what blue is when it comes to dogs. I'm not actually sure what pied is. A little bit of garlic in the rice free, more garlic in the with rice. So this one is rice, tomato, celery, onions and garlic so far. This one is tomatoes, garlic, a little bit of onion and mushrooms. And now we get on to everything else. So, the pied bull goes running up to Gesir, who's being the blue bull, and tries to gore him. But instead they lock horns, and the pied bull knocks Gesir over some mountains. That's marjoram, now going for basil. Do you know what? I'm going to leave them down here because I've strayed a bit from the actual recipe. So if I leave these down, I can tell you what to use, can't I? I'm clever. Makes it easier than watching the entire video. So, Gesir has now been knocked from one side of a mountain range to the other, and as you can imagine, he's not very happy, but he'll survive. His uncle, the pied bull, comes racing over the mountains in bull form still after him. And he's like, I'm going to get you. But by that point, Gesir has turned his bull form into a statue. This enrages his uncle. So he goes to gore the bull statue. I mean, I'm always goring statues. I don't know about you. Gods are a little bit, how would you put it? Stuck in their ways. So he goes to gore him, but he's made of stone. So the uncle breaks one of his horns and stuns himself a bit, and then goes, "Thou hast deceived me. Hereafter I shall be the enemy of all horned cattle." So he's just literally declared himself pretty much a devil. Let's see if I can get these off the tray without killing them. Now, Gesir is not a silly man. God. He's already up in the heavens, well, technically the sky, by this point. So, he's already talking to the gods up there. And when he talks to them, he tells them what has happened, that his 4 older uncles have just completely killed the place. Like, nothing good is going on down there. He had to set up a plague of maggots so that he could find somewhere to land. By the way, has anyone got a decent cuppa? One of them days. So, by the way, the little tiny one, my son, is growing and has hollow legs, but he says he's not actually looking forward to this recipe. He doesn't like the sound of stuffed peppers, so instead of forcing it on him wholesale, start off small, see if he likes them. If he doesn't, it's no harm, no foul. Not only that, the rice that I've used in here can be frozen. Always check to see if your rice can be frozen, and if it can, you can freeze that for another day when you might fancy them again, if you've got space in your freezer, because I always try my hardest to make sure everything can just be bunged in a freezer. It just makes life so much easier, because that way, if you're having a bad day, not feeling the greatest, you've forgotten something, you know, running behind with life, the universe and everything, you just get something out. Just 1 second, I forgot my cheese. So, what happens is, Gesir Bogdo gets an army together to take on, oh by the way, the 4 uncles then move north, further north, I forgot that bit. The Gesir, this is mozzarella, but it's also good with cheddar or red Leicester, just something grateable really. Parmesan would be quite good on top if you wanted it a bit, pardon me, I've got hiccups on the crispy. I've probably annoyed Mongolian gods and they're like, she's a bit far away to set maggots on her, let's give her hiccups. That would be just about right. So yeah, Gesir makes an army and goes after his uncles who have made themselves, like, I'm not sure if it's they themselves or if they've made a little army of evil animals and serpents in the north called the Mangathays. I'm going to say Mangathays. Right, they go back in until the cheeses were melted and they're warmed through, which is fair. I'm actually going to... No, I'm not. That's got to wait for something else before it goes in. Don't mind me. So that's all made. That just takes, well, if I put it in now, it wouldn't even take 10 minutes, I don't think. But it's going to be waiting to go cold. Sorry, because I've only got little onions, you're going to be needed. I got 2 out just in case I needed to, and I didn't. So this army goes after the Mangathays. I've just put the onion in the way of my notes. That was clever. And manages to get rid of the evil animals. A few years later, Gesir's son, Buki Noyan, has 7 sons and 1 daughter. And the daughter is called Herby Suban, and she married Erlich Noman's grandson. Now Erlich Noman was the eldest son of a Sege, so one of the 4 elder children who went down to earth and caused a load of nuisance. And his name is, hang on, is it Shandu Bugi Besbesh? There you go. So Ergy married Shandu, and through that marriage they created peace between the gods in heaven and the gods on earth, basically, which I actually quite like. As a tag-along, Esege's favourite son was called Solobung Yubun, aka the Morning Star. If Buriats, local people, want a lot of cattle, they sacrifice a ram at dawn and pray to Solobung and dance for the next 3 nights all the way through till dawn, which I think is actually quite cool. Any excuse for a party. So, I'm sorry, I know that I am quite annoying between the cooking and the speaking, but I like to tell these stories, and I think stories from all over need to be told. But that is the story of Gesir Bogdo and how he stopped his 4 how would you put it, slightly maniacal uncles from absolutely ruining an earth, and gave us peace. Twice over really, 3 times. He stopped them in the tracks with the bull thing. He then raised an army and fought them. And then his granddaughter, was it his granddaughter? Yes, his granddaughter then married his uncle's granddaughter, which would have been like 3rd cousins, I think, to completely solidify peace between the people after he'd already trashed them. So, I happen to quite like this story. I happen to quite like all the stories that I tell. But remember, they are just stories. There's always going to be a different story that's like been brought down in a family or something like that, and somebody will always hate me for telling a story the wrong way. And good on you, because you should always keep these stories close to your heart. They mean a lot to a lot of people, and especially a lot of places in the world are still running on oral traditions, and I actually think they're the best ways to keep stories going, because I've said before, I think when I was on about the dream time, that some of Aboriginal folk, I think it was a folk song is the one I know for definite, gave a clear history, but as a religious story, but it made sense actually. A guy had annoyed a god, so she flooded an entire area of what actually happened to that area of Australia when the last ice age happened. Well, the end of the last ice age happened through an oral tradition brought down for thousands of years. Now, if that had been written, people get complacent, they stop reading after a while. Whereas if they're singing it, they're dancing it, they're telling it by fireside, they're telling it to their little grandbabies or whatever, it suddenly becomes a whole lot more special, and it gets carried down through the years, which is what I love. It should carry on. However, when you're someone like me and you want to read these stories, can you please put them online now and then? Because sometimes it gets really confusing. Yeah, you know that these stories exist and they're out there, and you're sitting there going, I just want to know about, and you can't find them because you've been told them. Again, oral tradition, but when you've got told them 20 years ago and you've not heard them since, because strangely enough life happens, your memory's not the greatest anymore. But yes, it's always good. Right, that's the end of today, and I'm going to finish off my tea. Have fun and know your power. Bye.